Hey, today's good person to know is Baroness Martha Lane Fox of Soho, CBE and co-founder of lastminute.com, who gave her insights on the internet, how it's changed, where it's heading, and why there's still so much work that needs to be done. Martha started her entrepreneurial journey not knowing anything about the industry that she was about to revolutionize. She learned everything on the job, and her three main lessons learnt were: you have to have clarity, always overhire, and be a generous, spirited person. In 2009, Martha was contacted by the then UK Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, who wanted her help to help people better understand technology. And that was because 20% of the adult population didn't have access to the internet. I was fascinated to hear Martha's views on things, and particularly so when she asked the question, do you know how many people control 1.1 billion Facebook users via their newsfeed? And it's only 15. And it did get me thinking. Now Martha's involved in a project called doteveryone because it's about representing everyone. And it's about projects that will have huge and lasting impacts. And the ones that they're focusing on right now is women in technology, leadership and services. And that's because Martha said in order for the UK to have a robust digital economy, so much more work that needs to be done.
You know, I was 25 when we started lastminute.com. I didn't know anything, nothing at all. So I learned everything really about how you build something, how to treat people, how to get product to sell on a website, how to build a website, how to take a company public. You can assume that most of the things that I learned in my working life, I learned in that really intense phase of the 10 years that I was there, because it was such a kind of massive kind of tsunami of different experiences. But I think the things that I still probably use today and the things that I do now, the things that I've started since then are: be absolutely crystal clear what your idea is and what your vision for whatever it is. So I started another business called Lucky Voice. It's a karaoke business. Very simple. Hire a private room, sing with your friends. It's complete clarity of what that idea is. Now I'm starting an organization called doteveryone, trying to embed the original values of the internet in a public value creating organization. Again, I hope a really crystal clear vision for what that will represent in the UK landscape. So that's the first thing, just absolute clarity. And then the second thing is, and I don't think I have done this necessarily right at all, but definitely think it's the next most important thing, is hiring the absolute best people you can. And I would say people that are way better than you if you can, because people that recognize that they're only able to do that much and hire people that can do that much, I think are much more likely to be successful. So never ever underhire, always overhire, I would say, and give people a ton of responsibility and make sure that they're just the smartest and the best at what they do. So those would be the first two things. And then the final thing is, again, it's a bit trite, but it's so important, making sure that you are trying to do it in a good and generous, spirited way. Again, I've tried to do that my working life, probably with varying degrees of success, but in the end, life's too short to be going around being a complete cock, in my opinion. Be nice, right? Be generous. If somebody has to leave your organization, do it with generosity of spirit. If somebody isn't doing a good job, be clear with them, but don't be a complete twat in how you treat them. Be a generous, spirited person, and I honestly think that comes back to you through how your customers see you behaving and your wider role in the world. In 2009, I was in Lucky Voice, the karaoke business, having a meeting, and I had a call on my mobile, and it was a call that I did not expect to get, because it said, "This is number 10 calling." I was like, okay, is this a joke? And I said, "The Prime Minister would like to speak to you." I was like, okay, it's definitely a joke. And it wasn't a joke. Gordon Brown wanted to talk to me about helping people understand technology more broadly. And I had absolutely no idea at that time that there were about 15 million adults who had never been on the internet. 15 million, it was like over 20% of the adult population. It seemed like an incredible opportunity to do some interesting and hopefully impactful work. So that was when I began the journey of digital skills. Started Go On UK, which was a charity funded by the corporate sector. We've got 10 CEOs on our board and they pay for the work to happen. And now there are about 10 million adults who don't have those basic digital skills, and actually a much smaller number that have never been on the internet. But what we try and look at is what are the main things you have to do to get the benefits of being online? Searching, buying something, being safe, applying for a job, whatever it might be. And that's the thing we're working on. When we started our business in '97, there was no Google, let alone Facebook, let alone Twitter, let alone Instagram. It was so different. And now, you don't really have a business unless you're smart about Google. And in some ways, that's amazing. You can have access to the world. And in other ways, I would argue it's quite disturbing, and quite disturbing when you think about the small number of companies controlling our online experiences, and from such a small bit of the world. I read the other day, or someone at Facebook told me that the amount of people that control the news feed, so not all the people that work on other bits of products and services, but the people that are actually determining how that news feed works on your homepage. Guess how many people are controlling that news feed to 1.1 billion? 15, right? Okay. But 15 is still a very, very small number of people, I would say. But I just think it's worth questioning some of this stuff and thinking about it. And definitely thinking about how the experience of the internet that we grew up with is so different now to these huge platform-based businesses. So I think it's about encouraging people to be curious, encouraging people to remember what those original values of the internet were about. Lots of massively distributed, exciting and interesting and fragmented ideas. And I think as long as we're more informed and educated and curious consumers, that's a lot of the battle, I would say. I was asked to give the Dimbleby lecture earlier this year, which is one of the most old-fashioned formats, I think, left on television, where you get to broadcast to the nation for 40 minutes with no interaction. No one can stop you. The nation records its earliest ever bedtime, and you get this amazing platform to talk about something. And I talked a bit about some of the things we've talked about today, my own experience of technology, but also how I think we need to invent some new organisations to help us navigate this next phase of what Britain could be, but also some of the moral and ethical challenges. So looking back to look forwards, to your point earlier, the UK has a very grand and impressive history of making the most of the moments of big industrial change, often through inventing new organisations to do that, whether that was the Royal Society, or whether it's the BBC, or whether it's the NHS. But I don't think we've done that in the digital space for public value. So that's what doteveryone wants to be. Want to represent everyone, not just the interests of the commercial sector. And we're going to do two different sets of things, top down and bottom up, if you like. The top down level, we want to have a bit more of a coherent vision for what the UK could be, trying to bring together some of the amazing things that are happening on the civic tech side, not just the commercial side, and show how we can make a leap into the networked age and how that could benefit all of us, not just a few. And then we're going to do some things around particular issues that I think might make a difference. And the first three that we've put our mind to are around helping our leaders understand technology. And we're going to start with MPs. I think that it's important that the people that represent us, the people that are meant to be our everyone representatives, have a bit more understanding about what's going on in the network world. And it's hard, right? It's complicated, and how do they understand it? So that's our first piece of work. Our second piece of work is going to be around women in technology and how we can make more noise, get more money into the things that are working, and be a bit of a convening power and really help change the dial, not just in coding skills, but broadly, in the whole digital sector. And then the final thing we're going to do is build some prototypes, so do some stuff, create some products and services for public institutions that might be struggling to reinvent the future. So quite a lot of different things, but hopefully going to do some stuff as well as say some stuff. Got a small team, raised some money, and we're just starting to work, and then over time we'll start showing some of the things we've done. The world has changed so much, not just in terms of the actual business, but the culture of how you do business. So I think it's a hugely mixed picture. I think some people get it, some don't, but I feel pretty certain that there's a big job to be done in showing that cultural shift and the speed at which that cultural shift needs to happen. Or I think that UK PLCs will be in trouble, because it will be those US-based businesses or those Asian-based businesses that get that changing culture that will win in each of their sectors. If I look into the future, the UK needs to have some pretty big planks to build its economy around. We need to be the most skilled workforce in the world, I would argue. We've got this incredible geographical position between the US, Europe and Asia. But I don't know what we're going to be doing in 25 years' time if we're not putting the internet thinking at the heart of how we see the world. And that's about infrastructure, it's about skills, it's about the startup piece, but it's got to be about a universality of all of those things.
Martha is clearly a visionary who is passionate about connecting everyone with the internet. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to see more, and thank you for watching.